this week on the podcast, we got a husband takeover of the Parenting in Progress podcast. So we're going to talk about what is true education, like what really teaches kids and stuff, and we're going to go off some of the experiences that we've had in our lives, and some of the hot takes. Anyways, starting off with this thing, there's a study that's been done, and the study shows that kids that have started in chores, I think it's like between the ages of 2 to 4, have a higher successful rate when they get to adulthood. And so that's very interesting just in of itself, that the act of chores improves, the kids' mindsets, and it helps them to be more satisfied in life, is what some of the studies were saying that I was listening to and hearing, and I thought this was interesting. So what do you think about that, Bibbs?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is when I hear that is, first, what do you consider success, right? Are these people who just have really high-paying, well jobs? Or like you said, but then you did say, answer my question, and that is, you said they're satisfied in their life. Because I think a garbage worker can be successful if he's happy, right? And feels satisfied and full. And I think that's what a lot of education nowadays doesn't get, is they have one idea of success. When I look at my kids, my idea of success, I just wanted them to feel happy and fulfilled in their life, and to, be able to adapt to situations and learn on the go. And that is success to me.
Yeah. And so and now that brings to my mind that, we're just kind of in this life to gain experience, really, as simply as put as that. So Ann and I were talking earlier about that, the neglect that you can get while you're homeschooling kids, because we truly believe that homeschool is a better option nowadays, just with how the world is going and stuff. And I am in full support of it. And I just want the best for my kiddos. And I think, not to toot the old horn of homeschool, but back in the day, they used to have apprenticeships, and your kids would the males specifically would follow their dad and learn the trade. And so you get all these passed down, generations of knowledge.
Yeah.
And I was, so actually now, backtracking, a little crazy side topic, but I was talking to a coworker today, and he was explaining how, the ancient civilizations, they could track the stars, and they could tell where a star was going to be in 2,000 years. Mm-hmm. And the thing with tracking stars is one generation, I don't know that one generation could have the prediction ability to track that star. You would have to have multiple generations watching the same kind of star, and you have that kind of learned knowledge that gets passed down through generation and generation. And I feel like the school system nowadays has this thing where they get hyper focused and tunnel vision on certain aspects and certain qualities of individuals, but you're leaving out so many people. You're sifting through, and that's where my wife, she had the best time in school. She would go back, you know what I mean? And where I was no, screw that. I wanted to get out as soon as possible. And I just feel like that's where homeschooling can be. It can be such a great tool, because you can cater to the individual kids that you have.
That just reminded me of the story in one of the books I loved, and it pretty much just said, they're a teacher on the first day of school. These little kids come in all excited for school, right? And she says, "Okay, class, we're gonna draw a flower." And this little kid gets out his crayons, and he's like, "I'm gonna draw a flower," right? And he's like, "Oh, there's so many flowers to draw. What do I draw?" He knows how to draw from home. And then he wants to draw, and the teacher says, "No," and she draws on the board, and she says, "Okay, we're going to draw a flower like this." And she shows how to draw the flower, and so he copies the flower. And a couple years down the road, he's been in the school system, and the teacher says, "Okay, now we're going to draw the flower." And she says, "I want you to draw any flower you want." And guess which flower this kid draws? The one that he's taught, right? All those ideas of all the flowers that he could draw before, totally gone. And I think it's just a good example of what the school system does, right? Like you said, it focuses on those one aspects and those parts of characters that in the world they see are most to them successful or most wanted, and they focus on that, right? Like memorization, just conformity, things like that.
Yeah, and so now, like, coming from a parent's perspective, like talking about that, and I just feel like there's like a lack of a responsibility with parents, because really, like, when I think back to all the things that I've learned, it was from my parents that I've learned the most. It wasn't really school necessarily, and I feel like that's where we kind of missed the mark in homeschooling. Like, it's not. I feel like it's not about some kids struggle with math, and so some people will look down on them and focus on, they struggle in math, they're not very bright. Whereas, like, they have a bunch of other qualities that are very sharp and very, like, acute and, like, awesome. And so that's just one example. And it was funny because earlier today I was building some model rockets with my 2-year-old, and Anna was like, because I was like, I was trying to get him to, like, trying to train him, and Anna was under the impression at the time that I was trying to get him to do more than a 2-year-old was capable of. And then that led into a conversation between her and I of, because I like I didn't snap back, but I was like, I kind of responded in a well, if I don't, like, give him more than what he can handle, he will eventually fill the shoes, kind of thing, right? And it's not that I don't come from a point of love or nothing like that.
Well, that just reminded me, my friend Jocelyn, she was talking, there's this thing called the zone of proximal development, right? Pretty much it's just what you're saying, that there's a zone where the child learns best, but pretty much there's what they know how to do, and then there's what they can't do without help. And you want to go right in that middle, that zone, where they can do it with a little bit of help. And that's where, like, true learning and education comes from. This is, like, the optimal zone, I guess you'd say. And I think moms and dads, like, at least from our experience, are each side of that zone. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
As a mother, I find with other moms I talk to, we're very good at, like, protecting that kid and keeping, kind of not wanting to push that kid and just helping him stay where he's at. Like, I know some moms definitely push, and I push in certain ways. But dads are great at pushing their kids beyond those bounds and saying, like, you can do more. They're great at that push. And I think there's a need for both. And I do believe that's why a kid needs a mom and a dad, the male and the female, to push them in that proximal zone.
Yeah, so now, like, that brings to my head, like, what are some ideas that, like, a single parent could do? You know what I mean?
It's so hard because it's almost like you have to fake it till you make it. You have to fake being both. You have to fake the times when I was reading about this thing. I was just saying, like, if you're not good at something, you have to fake it, right? If you are not the parent who pushes, sometimes you have to fake it and push. And maybe if it's a dad, sometimes you have to fake it and nurture, right? Now
I'm thinking for some solutions for that too, and it's like, and that goes back to, like, the tribal, like, tribe parenting, like, where the whole tribe comes together and parents kids.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, maybe that's, like, an aspect that you could add as a single parent, like, because I think back,
for sure.
Yeah, because I think back to my life, and there are other, feminine and masculine figures in my life that really impacted me and changed me to, that kind of leads me to, down this rabbit hole of, like,
Let's go down it.
Yeah, I feel like society, like, kind of, society is set up to kind of tear that down even more nowadays, I feel like, because, like, how parents get super picky with how other people treat their kids or how other people parent their kids, and I feel like they
don't want them to.
Yeah, they don't want them to.
Well, I think it's as a mom on mom's Facebook pages, right, that you think's ridiculous, but I see a lot of people like, my mother-in-law, she is doing this, or she told me my kid should do this, right? And a lot of it is like, no, this is my child, this is my space, I choose what's happening. But we have family around. I mean, and it can be more than just family. You talk about mentors in a tribe, right? But we have family, and they step in, and sometimes they discipline in a way that's like, hey, no, don't do that. No, that's not okay. Like grandparents, great-grandparents we have helping with our kids, and I'm grateful for it. I think these kids are learning more, and I think it's missing in the world today.
Yeah, and it is sad to see, because like, and because they gain experience, like back to the original conversation, we're just here to gain experience, and the kids gain experience from that, and it helps to shape them. And I'm not saying like, go let them hang out with like serial killers and stuff like that. Like obviously, but
I think that's why it's really important, especially in homeschooling. I think it's super important to have a village. And I think there's a lost art. You were talking about apprenticeship. I think there's a lost art of apprenticeship, but also mentorship. And that's something that in our Commonwealth is a big thing, in our homeschooling Commonwealth is a big thing, is that these people are mentors for these kids. I think it's really important, especially when they get to teen years, because what teenager wants to listen to their parent?
Straight up.
But you had your grandpa, who I feel like was a mentor for you.
Yeah, so, and then, and that's really cool, because, and I was able to go, I used to work in the summers up in Alaska every summer since I was like 12, and my grandpa taught me how to work, really, like when I got up there, and it was like this whole camp, and being a younger guy, there's kind of like a rift between the older generation and the younger generation, and there always kind of has been, but I feel like nowadays there's like even more, and my grandpa, because he gave me, his time and all these things, that I have such a deep respect for him, and it kind of like feeds my respect for the older generation. And I feel like without that, I would be kind of lost towards the old generation. Like I just wouldn't think that they would give anything of value. And so that's, that's kind of interesting as well. So like, coming from a kid's perspective, like, so getting them involved with, good older gentlemen would actually benefit kids, I think.
Women.
Or women. Yeah. Older women, like, like cool grandmas, you know what I mean? Like,
what would you say to people who feel like don't have a village, or like struggling to find their village? Because I think that's a big thing, is there's all these co-ops and stuff, but sometimes it just feels like you don't find people you trust, or you can't.
Yeah, the first thing that's to my mind now is finding heroes. And I feel like the old-timey people did this very well. I feel like they were very isolated, but you think back to like the old books, right, where they had like traditional heroes and things that you could look towards and like look to become without even like leaving your house. You get these, because like when you're invested in a story, you kind of relate to some of these characters, and if you can get stories at your kids' levels, individually, they could relate to those characters and the heroes, and they could follow, and they could want to be something like that. You could create a third dimensional village kind of in your house with fictional characters. You could, and that could help inspire your kid to be, like one of those heroes in the books. That's just an idea, obviously.
I really like that. Well, one thing that I've heard and I truly believe is like read fairy tales, because fairy tales have those heroes, and I think for little kids, I'm saying, and those are like their first heroes. And then when they're a little older, bring in like historical heroes. I mean, I read with your sister, who I homeschool, we read about Abraham Lincoln this year and George Washington, and they are huge heroes of mine. Now, I learned these as an adult, like I've heard of them, but I feel like I didn't really know how heroic they were until I read their lives and their stories in books.
Yeah, and it's interesting, because I feel like a lot of the heroes too, especially nowadays, have been cheapskated.
They try to erase them from history.
Yeah,
and I think it's for a reason.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so like,
and they're trying to make pop stars our heroes.
Yeah,
and actors are heroes. They're trying. It's almost like a false idol that they're trying to put up for us to, in a way, worship. Not that we worship heroes, right? And
yeah, and so now that I'm thinking about it, I honestly feel like parents, how can we expect our kids to be found if we are so lost ourselves?
Amen.
You know what you know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like
I think that's a big
there,
thing with
yeah.
homeschooling.
And I feel like there are so many parents that are lost and they just don't know what to do and they're looking for direction. And I feel like society has failed us in that regard of we've always had everything kind of catered to us and a schedule put upon us before. And so like, and you know, knowledge is just our ability to adapt to a situation. Like that's what, that's what, you know, being smart is all about. And I think as a parent, you have to be able to adapt to your children and their needs. And that is the ability to adapt. That will create the lack of neglect. You know what I mean? Like you won't neglect them because you know their needs and you know what they're capable of and you know what you can teach them at this point and that point. And if you're excited and just animated about, you know, like if you can get excited about math, your kids will be excited about math. Like honestly, you know what I mean? Like, and if you can apply it to your life and how cool it is, and like, you know, we found the altitude of this mountain because we hiked this far and at the angle of this, you know what I mean? So it's generally in, you know what I'm saying? Like kind of stuff like that. It's just like, you know, spruces them up. Or like, you know, physics. Like I'm a big rock climber and there's so much physics involved in rock climbing and I can't wait until my little man gets a little bit bigger so he can start understanding some of these things without even understanding them, you know, because I want to build a good foundation for him to progress through and to learn.
I think it brings up a good point of, because a lot of people say like if you just go about life, then they'll have an education, right? But like you said, you have to be intentional about teaching it too. Like you can't just rock climb and be like physics. You have to explain it and you have to learn yourself. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned from homeschooling or that I get out of homeschooling is I think I learn more. Like as I homeschool, as I do all these things and read these books along with the kids, I'm learning more because I have to teach it. So not only are your kids getting something, but you're getting more almost out of it. And imagine if this goes on for generations.
You know, and I think about what is the most important thing that you can learn, and it's literally like, I would say it's relationships, you know, and where do you really learn that? You kind of learn it from your parents. You just see how they react and they do. And the better that I can make my relationship with my wife and the better that she can make her relationship with me, the better, you know, example that we can set for our kids. And that just builds their foundation of learning even more, because then they can see how, you know, good communication works and how working together happens. And when we can train our kids to work together, they can accomplish literally whatever they set their minds to.
What would you say like to a dad dad of a homeschool kid who feels like the schooling is all in his wife's hands, or that like maybe not in a way that's bad, but he just feels like, oh, like she does it all, like what do I even teach them? Because I think this is where it gets a little convoluted, is some guys think that like they can't do anything because they're gone at work.
And so like now talking to my guys out there that are listening, if there is any, I just think that the women are very good at teaching the popular things, like, and the things that bring,
the things that matter to them, right?
Yeah, the things that bring recognition, the very cliche, yeah. And I feel like
which are great.
Yeah, 100%, which are great. But I feel like us as dads and as dudes, we teach masculinity. That's a good thing. And I don't think it's a bad thing. And I think the media is trying to say it's a bad thing, but I really genuinely think it's a good thing. And we teach grit. We teach, you know, hard work, and we teach you have to become a rock for your family. So you are teaching the next rock for their family. You know what I mean? And I'm specifically talking to us dudes with our sons, but even with our daughters too. The more that you can build their foundation, the more that you can make them a rock. And how you do that as a dad is by example. Like honestly, and like dads don't get recognized enough for what they do, because they really do a lot just by being there, by listening to your kids as a dad. You will learn so much from them, and they will learn so much from you just by you listening, because you will then, by listening, you will determine what you need to do for your kid or kids.
Well, men, I noticed, are really good at telling the truth that hurts. And I mean, women are great at loving you through the hurt, but men are good at building you up through the truth that hurts.
Yeah, so just, another thing that came to mind is, and it's just allowing, you know what I mean? Sometimes you have to allow your kids to hurt, to experience, you know what I mean? Certain things, obviously, like, not to where it's going to critically injure them or nothing like that, but, or mess them up completely, which is hard to do, very hard, but
there's a balance.
Yeah, there is a balance. And so, closing out here, we've been talking for a little while, but, I kind of want, maybe drop in the comments, what do you guys think is the most important thing to teach kids?
Teach your children.
Yeah, teach your children.
Like, what is true education?
Yeah, like, what is true education? Like, what do you guys think is the most important? And, and then, in this whole thing, the more people we get on here, the more we can share what we believe and, give some insights and maybe help.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Goodbye.